Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hello there, friends. Welcome back to the Event Crushed podcast. This is your host, Becky. And today's guest on the show is Renee Walker of Renee Walker Photography and Beneath the Pines, which is a styled shoot and education company run by Renee Walker Photography, where she emphasizes building connections and creating content with intention. And she puts on all kinds of beautiful styled shoots across Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. And so today's focus is all about styled shoots and what they can do for our businesses and why we should consider running a styled shoot or being a part of a styled shoot. And we're just really going to get into all the details of why it's worthwhile, because maybe you've thought about doing a styled shoot, but then you didn't know if it was worth the time and the investment. And so you just decided not to. So we're going to get into all of that, and we will dispel some myths and really just talk about why there is value in it and why you should consider styled shoots for marketing your wedding business. So with that, we are going to jump right into the interview, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Hey, Renee, welcome to the show. I am so excited to chat with you about all things styled shoots today. And I would love if you would start by just sharing a bit about yourself and what you do in the wedding industry and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I started in the wedding industry almost 4 years ago on Thanksgiving, actually. I was a stay-at-home mom after leaving my banking finance career and kind of just felt like I was drifting, needed something to do. So my husband got me a little used Nikon D3500 camera off of Facebook Marketplace. And it started as me just taking photos of my kids and kind of blossomed from there. And now I am a full-time photographer, and I focus on weddings and couples and then also high school seniors. I do some of the other stuff in between all of that, but my main focus is definitely couples and then the seniors. And then recently, in the last 2 years, I've started hosting styled shoots, content days, and workshop retreats, which is like a big passion of mine, and I absolutely adore doing them.
That's so cool. How did you get started doing the workshops and the styled shoots and the content days? Like, what got you into that initially?
I think for me, it was attending shoots that other people had been hosting and feeling like maybe I was walking away and not getting what I wanted out of it, or sometimes they'd be lacking in things that I personally wanted, mainly that being connection with the vendors. Like you would connect with them when you delivered galleries, if you delivered galleries to them, and like when you were tagging them, but you didn't really get to meet a lot of the vendors participating. And so I felt like that was kind of something that was lacking in shoots. So I started doing my own, and it started as me just playing around and just doing it with friends, and sort of blossomed from there, and partnering with a ton of amazing planners and coordinators to put on these really epic content days where there's also like a meet and greet social aspect of them.
I love that. I think that's such an important part of it. And I love that you recognized that like you weren't seeing that. And so you created that for yourself and for others. So that's super cool.
Yeah, it's nice because like with all my shoots, I invite all of my vendors to actually stay for the full day. And we do like a food and like a networking portion all the time, like every time, where you can meet the florist, you can meet the cake artist, you can meet the rental company or various vendors that participate, just so they're getting more out of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Can you share about what impact styled shoots and, these content days, like what impact have these had on your career. And for anyone who's listening who is like, oh, I don't know if styled shoots are worth it. Like it seems, time consuming, maybe expensive. I don't know. Like, can you just share why you think that these are worthwhile?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I have seen a huge growth in my business since starting to host the style shoots, not only in just getting that content that I'm wanting for the market that I want to be in, but I would say like for this next wedding season coming up, 90% of my weddings are referrals from vendors that I've worked with on style shoots,
Hmm.
whether that be planners, venues. I think I've booked like 3 or 4 weddings just from a venue that I shot at that is now referring me to clients.
Mm.
So, like, just building those really solid relationships with your fellow vendors and creatives. And some of my best friends have come into my life through styled shoots.
Mm.
So, like, that's been huge for me. And I would say it also helps me build a strong portfolio so that I'm marketing to the clients that I want for the next year. Maybe not the wedding market that I'm in now, but I can curate kind of the feed that I'm going to want to attract those clients for the next season. And then I was also nervous when I started attending styled shoots, just because I wasn't really sure what to expect out of them. But the more that I've done them and the more that I've hosted them, they are so beneficial just for, like I said, getting those portfolio building shots and the networking. The networking is so huge. Just being able to get in front of planners and show your work with planners or sending that portfolio, like when you're done editing the photos and having venues share your photos. It's really kind of an invaluable marketing strategy as well.
Definitely. That's a lot of value to come out of that. Like you listed so many things, like all the referrals that you're receiving, the relationships and the friendships that you've created through it, the, ability to like curate your portfolio, the networking, like, so, just this huge growth that you've had in your business. Like that is so cool to say all of that you can attribute to styled shoots. And like styled shoots are fun,
They
right?
are a lot of fun. And I would attribute styled shoots a lot to like your mentorships. Yes, sometimes they can be expensive and they can be an investment. And it's hard to say, oh, do I have a couple $100s to spend on, a styled wedding? But I would say that if you're getting worth out of it and the shoots that you are attending they have a lot of details and multiple sets going, they can be really worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I am someone who I did a lot of styled shoots back in the day, and then I got a little bit burnt out on them because I did a lot in like a short amount of time. And I got a little burnout and then kind of took a step back from them. And now I do them very sparingly. So I don't do them a lot. I don't do them like you, which is very commendable because I'm always seeing like all these gorgeous photos from these shoots you're doing. And I'm like, man, super cool. But I'm just pretty like picky about what shoots I'll take on just because like you mentioned, there's so many amazing things about it, but it is, especially as like the planner in a shoot, like it can be pretty
Mhm.
time consuming. It can get a little spendy. So I just try to be mindful about like which ones I take on, but absolutely there is so much value in styled shoots. And especially too for vendors who might be like newer or just getting started,
Mhm.
who don't have a ton of content. Like, hello, it's just such a great way to get that content of whatever, whatever service or offering that you have and to be able to showcase that until you can really build up your portfolio.
Absolutely. It's a great way for new vendors to kind of break into the market and be able to show people what they have. And they can be time consuming. And I think between my workshops and my 2 retreats this year, I did 10 um,
Wow.
shoots. And going into next year, I am going to be more intentional with what I
Mm.
do, but I still have quite a few planned for next year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 10. That's amazing. Like you're obviously very passionate about it and you enjoy it a lot, which is
I do.
incredible.
I enjoy making the community,
Hmm.
and just kind of allowing photographers to come to more of an experience. Like my style shoots aren't really just something you show up, you take a photo and you leave. Like it's really an experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Can we talk a little bit about styled shoot etiquette? Just because I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of information and maybe misinformation out there, and not everybody knows like what to expect. Like maybe somebody is getting asked to participate in a styled shoot for the first time and they've never done it and they just like don't know what they don't know. So, from your experience as someone who's done many of these, does everyone who's a part of a shoot provide like their product or their service at no cost, just in like trade for the photos? Or do some vendors get compensated? Or like, I guess just how do you handle it? Because I think it probably varies like around the country. It probably varies, vendor to vendor. But like, what do you do personally, if you don't mind sharing?
So personally, when I started doing styled shoots, because I didn't know, like you said, I did do a lot of TFP, which is trade for photo. Now, any of my perishable vendors get paid. So that's florals. If I have a cake, usually I cover like supplies, models, but florals would be the big one. I think a lot of people don't, when they start like, oh, I'm going to host a styled shoot, they don't realize how expensive florals are.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it didn't feel fair to ask a florist to like front the costs of these big floral arrangements and be out $2,000 for a floral arch for photos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they want to do that, that's great. There are florists out there that are just getting started that are going to want the content. But a lot of the florists that I reach out to or I invite onto projects are well-established florists that don't necessarily need that content. So I do pay them. And usually they're donating their time. They're just asking us to cover the cost of florals.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of wraps up into what I charge for my tickets. Once I kind of get an idea of what the costs are going to be to put the shoot on, is how I kind of determine what I'm going to set that ticket price at. So if I'm really going all out extravagant and my floral costs are $3,000 to $4,000, the tickets are going to be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're getting those quality florals. These are not just florals that we're going to Costco and throwing onto the table or, putting an arch up. Like these are quality florals or, really extravagant cakes. Or I've hired, really experienced models because it is really hard to model styled shoots. And it's a lot to ask people that have never done something like that to stand in front of a camera for 2 to 3 hours while, dozens of photographers are giving you different directions. So I definitely think that paying your vendors is really important.
Absolutely. And especially, I think it's a little bit different if it's a styled shoot where there's just one of each vendor and there's one photographer capturing it versus like a content day where you're charging tickets.
Yes.
Because I remember back in the day, there was like, it was years and years ago, but there was like some kind of controversy because somebody was charging hundreds of dollars for tickets to a content day, but like didn't pay any of the vendors, which is so shady in my opinion. It's like if you're going to charge people to attend to like cover your costs, you need to be paying the people who are providing the services. So everything you said, I'm completely on the same page with. Anyone who has like a hard cost, like the flowers, the cake, the models, that's completely worth it to to have that quality product or service. And yeah, and if you can pay everybody, like that is the best situation in my opinion.
Even for me, like me personally, when there are vendors like hair and makeup, all of the times will do trade for photo, I still tip them. Any vendor that participates that does like trade for photo, like I've had a coffee cart come out and they served up coffees for free on their own dollar. But I tipped them out. My rentals, like if they deliver, I tip them out. Just because for me, it's, the polite thing to do. And I want that strong relationship. I want them to be like, oh, you're asking me to participate in another styled shoot? Of course. Like she tipped us last time and didn't even need to because we didn't ask for anything. Like I want that relationship because it is, they are a lot of work.
Yeah, and everyone is, coming in and it's not a wedding day, obviously, but a lot of times the work that's happening is very similar to what would be happening on a wedding day, like hair and makeup, for example. And so, like you said, the relationships are so important to you that you're willing to, do what you need to do, pay people, tip people to make them feel appreciated. And because they're going to want to come back and be a part of your shoot again if they felt like you took good care of them. Whereas, someone who feels like, oh, I just spent all day doing this and then I didn't feel appreciated and, I'm not going to do that again. So I think it's great that you're creating that culture and that community among your vendors. So, okay, we talked a bit about, or we've brought up content days. But for any listeners who don't know what a content day is and how it differs from a styled shoot, could you just kind of share on that briefly?
Yeah, so styled shoots are more typically, traditionally, it's more one photographer and vendors, and you're doing one kind of concept. And there's usually only one photographer there. You can have more photographers there, but the key in a styled shoot is that there's one concept. So you're going to get one couple, stuff like that. Where content days, there's going to be multiple sets going. So for my content days, I always have at least one wedding couple, an engagement couple. Sometimes I'll throw in a solo bridal look. And then photographers rotate through smaller groups through each set. So you're able to get a better content because you don't have 12 photographers trying to give directions to one model. Usually my groupings are 4 to 5 photographers per group, and we sort of just do 30-minute rotations with 15 minutes for the models to take a break, go to the bathroom, get water, stuff like that, sit down, stuff like that. So that would be the big difference between styled shoots and content days. And then, of course, you have your workshops or your overnight workshops that are going to have education pieces in it and overnight lodging, and usually are a multi-day event.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just think, for anyone who's listening and maybe isn't familiar, I just think it's helpful to kind of break it down a little bit.
I will say that people use them really interchangeably. People will be advertising styled shoot and it's really a content day.
Yeah, that's why I think it can be a little bit confusing because when you're, reading the language, it's wait, it says styled shoot, but it's really this. And it can be, a little confusing. So when you are doing a content day or a styled shoot, do you have it in mind that you're going to get that you're going to get it featured in an online or a print publication? Or is that just you kind of decide based on the shoot? Or I'm just curious, how much that comes into play, or if that isn't really your goal, if it's more about yes, we're going to create beautiful images and we're going to have community. I was just curious how important it is to you to get it featured.
I think it kind of depends on the shoot. I don't put shoots on in mind, ticketed shoots, content days on in mind to get published. If the shoot comes together really well and the photos are there and we've got really good content, obviously I would love to get that, featured for the vendors, for myself, or for whichever photographer's photos we decide to use for that. I have had my styled shoots featured in Vanity Fair and stuff like that. If I'm going to do something for publication that I am okay, I want to publish and I have this great idea, typically I will just do a styled shoot where I'm the only photographer. It gets kind of sticky when you've got multiple photographers because if they want to publish their photos and you're trying to publish, or you're trying to use somebody else's photos to publish, there's a lot of publications out there that won't want to use photos that have already been used. So if you get multiple photographers trying to submit the shoot for publication, it gets kind of sticky. And that's where important language in your contract comes into play. So if there is a shoot that I am wanting to publish, I will put a clause in my contract that photographers sign saying that they can't submit these photos to publication.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just wondering how you handle that as the host photographer. So having that language in your contract is super important.
And it's sometimes I have to separate myself from Renee Walker photo and Beneath the Pines to where oh, maybe I want my photos to be published, but maybe another photographer had a stronger final product because
Mm.
they got better angles or whatever, I, would want to try to submit the strongest photos out there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, cool. That makes sense. So if someone is newer to styled shoots and they, hear us talking about it and they're like, okay, I want to put on a styled shoot, but maybe they feel a bit overwhelmed and like not really knowing where to start, can you share any advice that you might give to somebody in that position who is like excited to do a shoot but just needs help kind of getting off on the right foot?
Start small. That is my
Mm.
biggest piece of advice. The shoots that I put on now that have all of these details, multiple sets going, 10 to 15 vendors participating, they are not how I started my styled shoots.
Mm.
My very first styled shoot was me and a rental company, and we set a little picnic up on the beach, and it was like the lowest key styled shoot. And even that was like overwhelming in the
Mm.
beginning. And then for sure, if you're going to be charging photographers and this is your first style shoot and you're charging photographers to come, 100%, just like we have contracts with wedding clients, have a contract. Make sure that the expectations for yourself and for them are clear, just so that you're not getting yourself into sticky situation. But I would say maybe try doing a style shoot just for yourself first. Put
Mm.
something together, find some models, rent a dress, find a florist and do something really small, low key just for yourself before you try hosting a bigger one that people are paying for.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think, because I think one of the things that I hear from vendors when we talk about styled shoots, or like maybe some of the pushback I get from newer, like let's say it's a newer planner, is like if they don't have these already established connections with vendors, would you think it's okay to just, find someone on Instagram that they like their work and just reach out to them and just say, hey, like, would you want to collaborate on this shoot with me? Or do you think there needs to be like an already established relationship there?
I think when I started hosting them, I did reach out to planners or vendors that I somewhat knew, either through doing a wedding with, and I'd already sent them a wedding gallery.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because I do like to kind of spread the love and I have found new vendors whose work inspires me, I
Mm-hmm.
will, if I can find their email, I like to do it through email. And I have like an email template that I use that says like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Would you be interested? Sometimes it is just reaching out on Instagram, or I'll post on my Instagram stories and I'm like, hey, I have this idea for a shoot. Is there anybody that like rentals or a cake person that want to collaborate? And then people can kind of reach out to me. So those are always nice. But I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no.
Mm-hmm.
So I am always like, shoot your shot, send somebody a DM
Mm-hmm.
and see what they have to say. Maybe they're interested, or maybe they say, hey, like, this isn't what I'm into right now, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
have the space to do this, or I don't need that kind of content. But I find that a lot of times people are willing to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. Like, the worst they can say, the worst, they can say is no. And sometimes that might happen and that's okay. Like there's plenty of vendors around who can potentially contribute. So if one says no, it shouldn't be too hard to find another one that will hopefully be available. So,
Yeah. And I mean, like, for me, like the big one is I recently reached out to one of like my dream florists and she was totally on board, but like the concept that we were doing, she already had a lot of those colorings in her portfolio. So she's like, hey, you guys are willing to change the colorings a little bit in the florals, I would be totally on board. So even stuff like that, you have to be open to a certain level of collaboration with these. And,
mm-hmm.
like, hey, this is my general concept. It's like with my cake people, I'm always like, this is our general concept, but if there's something you're really wanting to advertise in your portfolio, like I'm totally open to that. You have to be willing to bend your idea a little bit so that vendors are getting what they need out of it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I found that really helpful in my own styled shoots to do what you said, like mentioning like, hey, this is kind of the overall vision and these are my ideas. But if there's something that you are wanting to showcase. Like if a rental company has a new rental piece that like they really want photos of that new piece, it's like, yeah, let's include that. And just being collaborative, like you said, it goes a long way.
It does. I mean, even just my last styled shoot in September that I did at Diamond Woods, the florist really wanted to participate. But what we originally wanted her to do, she was like, I'm not interested in featuring that. But if you guys are open to a design, and I mean, she created this incredible floral tree that I've never seen anywhere in my life. And it was just a showstopper. But giving her that freedom to be able to do that piece is what got her onto the shoot.
Mm.
So, like, just kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw photos of that. Was it like on the back patio at Diamond
Yeah.
Woods? Was it
And
that
it was
one?
like
Okay.
on the table, and it was this huge,
Yeah.
like, floral tree. And when she pitched us this idea, we were kind of like, oh, like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Like, we were really apprehensive about it because we just never seen anything like it. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, giving her that freedom to do that, it just, I mean, we were blown away.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked incredible. It was massive. Okay, well, can you share any like final words of encouragement or any additional advice to our listeners today as it pertains to style shoots?
I would say one, my number one advice, and I think that this is a lot of what surrounds controversy around style shoots, workshops, content days, is if you're a photographer and you're attending these events, you're going, please, 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 please do not advertise these to clients as actual weddings.
Mm,
They are not real weddings. They are tailored to look good by professionals, people that, know what they're doing. They are not going to give clients an accurate representation of what you can do on a real wedding day in crazy lighting, high pressure, stuff like that. So I always tell people who attend the shoots when I do my intro is like, yes, use these for your portfolio, share them on Instagram, share them on your website. But if you do get inquiries, don't send the gallery that you get out of a styled shoot to a client because it's not going to be an accurate representation of what you can capture on an actual wedding day. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. Use them as a portfolio builder, not as stuff for your clients. And then my other one would be go in with an open mind. Yes, people put out these mood boards for styled shoots, but that's just that. It's a mood board. It's not maybe going to look exactly like that. If they have a picture of a tablescape on a mood board, it may not look exactly like that. And understand that things, just like on a wedding day, are going to go wrong during a shoot. Models get sick the morning of, and we have to transition to something else. So just not being understanding that things happen, timelines shift, and making sure that you're bringing like positive attitudes to the shoot.
yeah, no, that's great advice. I love all of it. I'm glad that you touched on the just not sharing the style shoots as if it's like a wedding, because I do think that can be a little misleading for couples, especially when I just think it's important to disclose. That's what I don't like is when I see like a clearly styled shoot photos, but in the caption, it's like, oh, this was such a beautiful wedding day. And I'm like,
Yeah, you have to be really careful with how you word your post from style shoots. Like instead of saying this was such a beautiful wedding day, just say, oh, what a beautiful day
Mm,
capturing these, like stuff like that, taking the word wedding out of it.
mm,
Um, but my biggest one, like I said, is don't send, if you get an inquiry from a client and they ask to see wedding galleries, please don't let one of those wedding galleries be a styled shoot gallery.
mm-hmm.
One, usually with styled shoots, you're going to be missing huge aspects of a wedding day. So clients are going to be like, what is happening here? Because it's like all bride and groom photos. Um, but it's not an accurate representation. And I would say also don't go into taking weddings after just attending styled shoots. If you've never shot a wedding, you don't have wedding experience just by attending a styled shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, those are extremely planned out and tailored to look good and be aesthetic by hiring models, getting designer gowns, stuff like that. And it's not going to prepare you for a wedding day.
Definitely. No, that is a great thing to be aware of for sure. And yeah, being positive, having an open mind, all good things, whether it's a wedding day or or a styled shoot.
Yes. Always go in with an open mind and positivity because that'll shape your day.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, can you share a bit more about the branch of your company that does the content days? Is it Beneath the Pines? Is that?
It's Beneath the Pines, Pacific Northwest. It's like I think Beneath the Pines PNW on
Mm.
Instagram. Um, Originally I was just doing it all under Renee Walker Photo, but then it was becoming really hard to share other photographers' work because
Mm.
I don't want to share their work on my feed and then clients see that and be like, oh, like that doesn't look like your style. So I came up
Mhm.
with like kind of like a subsect of my business and named it Beneath the Pines since I do all Oregon related style shoots, content days, workshops, so that I could really be featuring other photographers' work and kind of separate it from Renee Walker Photo. And I really like it. I like that it's kind of getting its own name,
Mm.
and being able to, just like I said, share people's work because I get a lot of really beautiful galleries out of it.
Mm.
Just so many talented photographers out there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And when did you officially start that?
This year,
Okay.
yeah, just
Nice.
because it was getting. I felt like I was inundating my clients with style shoot stuff. I would get clients that are like, "Oh, what is this?" Like, or "Hey, I want to attend this." I'm like, "Well, you're not. I don't know how you would benefit from this. You're not a photographer." Um, so just kind of giving it its own platform to really like succeed and rise and separate it a little bit so that my clients weren't constantly seeing style shoot advertisements.
Hmm.
So that's been nice. And then people can leave reviews and stuff for my shoots now that it has its own name and they're not reviewing
Mm.
me as like Renee Walker Photo.
Yeah, no, that's really smart that you separated it out like that and just have that separate platform to be able to showcase the work and what you're doing and not be inundating clients and everything, like you said. So I think
Yeah.
that was a great choice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it and I'm excited to see it grow and kind of where it can go.
Yay. Definitely. Well, I'll be sure to link your Instagram. Is there a website for that as well?
There will be soon.
Okay.
My wonderful website designer is adding a mentorship and workshop page to my current website. So it'll have its own little area in my website.
Okay, perfect. Well, when that is live, I will make sure to include it in the show notes and then everyone can go check it out. But yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you, Renee, for sharing just all your
Thank you
knowledge
for
in
having
style
me.
shoots. Of course, yeah, it's been fun and I'm excited to get this out there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.